Hey there, we have like eons of stories to tell, so if you want to follow us along on this journey and keep up with all the stories that we have putting out, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hope you enjoy. Thank you. Hey, what's up everybody? Chad here, and today we are going to be continuing with Planet Hulk. Okay, so with this story, we're like two videos away from starting World War Hulk, which is when like stuff like really gets like super good. So I'm gonna try to get those out real quick so we can start on that. Pretty much last we left off at with Planet Hulk was Silver Surfer, right? So we actually found out that Silver Surfer, he was actually basically tricked onto the planet Sakaar the same way that Hulk was. You know, he was flying through. You know, he ended up like seeing the portal. You know, he went through it and he got bound with an obedience disc, and he's been fighting as a slave ever since, pretty much. So they basically, Kyra, she's there, she has one of the guards, and she's basically like asking Silver Surfer, who are you? Where'd you come from? Stuff like that, pretty much. And, they shock him with the obedience disc, and they end up telling, like, the Silver Surfer ends up telling them his story. So basically what happened was, like Silver Surfer, he was born on this planet. This planet was super peaceful. There was no crime, no wars, nothing like that. There were no disagreements, pretty much. Like it was a peaceful planet. Everything was all good. It was basically an evolved, state of living, pretty much. But the thing about him is, he actually wanted, he wanted war. He wanted to battle. He wanted to fight. He wanted basically to struggle, pretty much. Instead of just having like a super peaceful, because it gets boring and stuff. Like super peaceful living, stuff like that. So when Galactus came to his planet and tried to devour it, he ended up going to try to fight Galactus. So what Galactus did was he took him as a herald. Instead of eating his planet, he took him as a herald, and he made him the Silver Surfer, pretty much. So now the Silver Surfer, he just goes around, just like finding planets for Galactus to eat. That's basically his whole origin. That's where the Silver Surfer comes from. So eventually, like, he found this portal, right? He found this portal, and it was like like calling to him. It was like he had like this feeling about the portal, because he's always wanted to fight and stuff like that. And, so that he ends up going through the portal, right? And like as soon as he goes through it, he wakes up and he's like bound in chains. As soon as he wakes up bound in chains, they come and throw this obedience disc on him. And ever since then, he's been fighting. He's been fighting the same way that the Hulk and the Warbound were, in the arenas, fighting off all these monsters and stuff like that. He's just been non-stop. So they end up like talking to him, like wondering if he's a Sakarsan, the one of the natives that's with them, they're asking him like he might be the Sakarsan, stuff like that, pretty much. And Kyra, she just like walks off, she just like dismisses it. She didn't really she's like this dude ain't no Sakarsan, whatever. So the next day, the Hulk and his Warbound. All right, so basically the Hulk and his Warbound, right? They're like they're going to their next test, right? But basically, like, they've had like many final tests. They had like 3 final tests so far, and they still haven't got their freedom. Like basically, like just like like basically lying to them, not trying to really give them their freedom. So they're basically going to their final test, right? And like while they're doing that, as soon as they all get up out there, the Silver Surfer shows up. They basically have them fighting against the Silver Surfer. So like while the Hulk is there, he's like talking to him. He's like, "Oh, Silver Surfer, is that you, man?" And Surfer, he's just like, "Yeah, it's me." And basically the Hulk, he's just like talking to him, like talking to him as a friend and stuff like that. He's trying to actually like conversate with him, stuff like that. And basically the Silver Surfer, he just goes in and just start crushing all of these guys. Like every single one of them is just getting destroyed. Now, the Silver Surfer, when it comes to like physical strength against the Hulk, the Silver Surfer doesn't have it. Like the Hulk is like way too strong. When it comes to like just raw power, like all around like power, like the Silver Surfer has it like in the bag. The power cosmic is like that's like one of the most potent forms of energy out there. Like he could do so much stuff with that. But basically, that's one of the reasons why he's actually able to fight most of these guys off, pretty much, right? So they start trying to attack him. He's just like ends up like throwing all of them off. He's just like shaking everybody, smacking them with the mace, throwing the surfboard at them. Just like crushing every single one of these guys. But eventually, the Hulk, he gets back up and he goes and like stabs the Silver Surfer in the chest, right? And when he stabs him in the chest, he ends up breaking his obedience disc. So basically, the Silver Surfer is out of the servitude of this empire, pretty much. He can walk around. He can do whatever he wants, basically, because he broke the disc. And like while he's trying to tell the Hulk that, the Hulk just starts slamming. He's just like wailing on him. And this goes back to the physical strength thing. The Silver Surfer, he's not as strong as the Hulk is. Like when it comes to physical strength, the Hulk is just like crazy. Like he's actually gonna kill the Silver Surfer here. The only reason he doesn't is because Korg, he walks up, he's like, no, like we're already done here. And like he basically has to stop the Hulk from basically murdering his friend. Like he was actually gonna kill him if he didn't get stopped just then. So Korg, he starts yelling, you know, he's basically like talking about the, you know, having his freedom and stuff like that. You know, the king, he's just like, no, we're not giving this guy, no, they're not getting their freedom yet. Nah, the king, he's basically like the he's basically like a certified hater. Like this guy here is not trying to let. He's not like owning up to any of his words, pretty much. So he basically has like one of his guards like shot the obedience collars of everybody, you know, that's out there, pretty much. You know, all of them, they just start getting, you know, shot by that thing. And basically what happens is the Silver Surfer puts his hand up. He uses the power cosmic and destroys everybody's obedience disc. Everybody, like all of the guards of the king, the people in the stands, everybody. Like none of these guys are in the servitude of the king anymore. Like they're all free people now. So first thing they do is the Silver Surfer, you know, he's basically telling them that they're all free. They go and punch a hole through the arena, and they all just like book. Everybody's just running out of there. The guards, the natives, the warbound, everybody, they're just like leaving. So they end up getting to like the edge of this forest, right? And, you know, they're basically like getting ready to go in there, you know, talking about the Wilderblash, you know, stuff like that. Basically, that they have to go that way so they won't get caught by the Empire again, pretty much. And like the Hulk, he's talking to the Silver Surfer, and the Surfer, he's just like, okay, yeah, I couldn't use my power cosmic, but you know, I'm a little bit too weak, you know, so I'm just gonna, you know, go ahead and go. And the Hulk, he's just like, I mean, yeah, like you kind of have to, you know. I actually wanted to leave, you know, Earth, you know, stuff like that. When I first saw you, you know, I thought you was like a flying saucer, you know, stuff like that. Basically telling him that he wanted to leave Earth, you know, he didn't want to be there. And, you know, the Silver Surfer, you know, he offers his hand, you know, he's like, okay, I mean, if you want me to take you away from here, you know, I could do that. And Hulk's just like, no, I'm this is where I want to be, you know, I'm gonna stay here, you know, stuff like that. And that's when the Silver Surfer, he leaves. He's finally out of there. After all that time on Sakaar, he's finally getting to leave. And that's when the Hulk and his warbound, they go into this forest, right? They're done with what the king had them going on, right? So at this campfire later, we basically had them talking, you know, everyone's just sitting there, you know, it's peaceful, everybody's chilling. And like one of these natives that like left with them, he's basically like, you know, talking about how he doesn't trust the Hulk, you know, stuff like that, basically saying that the Hulk doesn't know what he's doing. And everybody else is just like, no, I mean, he got this, he's gonna protect us, he's gonna keep us safe, and, you know, stuff like that. And basically, you know, like this guy, he's just like talking mad trash, and, you know, the Hulk walks up, and this dude just like books it out of there. This dude, like, he was a real coward, like dude was really talking all his trash until the Hulk walked up to him, and he just ran away. But that's where we found out this guy, he actually ran away, and he started talking to Kyra, one of the guards of the Red King, basically. And basically, like, he's telling her like where they are, you know, like telling them that they're vulnerable, you know, stuff like that. And basically, when he tells her that, she ends up ordering these little, like, the bombardment, pretty much, you know, basically like having all these missiles just dropped on these guys. And like it's just a small camp, and they have like multiple missiles just dropped on every single one of them. So this guy, instead of just like, you know, trying to get up out of there, he tries to run away, and like Hulk and Korg are right there in front of him. You know, he like runs straight into them, and he like looks up, he sees the missile come down, and it like smacks the ground, disintegrates him right there in that spot. Hulk and, you know, Korg, you know, they survive it, of course. You know, they're real durable. You know, they're not just gonna die to that stuff. But eventually, after the like we go to the explosion site with Kyra, you know, she goes over there and she's like looking. She's like, okay, no, this is a decoy. Like only person who died here was our spy. You know, stuff like that, pretty much. And basically, while she's doing that, her guards, they're just sitting there just like incinerating all these other guys, you know, these other people that are there. And basically, like we actually find out that the Hulk and his warbound, they're basically like in the bushes, just like watching these guys. They're just like looking at them. So this is actually they're having like a tactical conversation here, basically like, you know, trying to discuss their next moves, pretty much. So basically what they do is they're basically like, you know, trying to run in there and just like go fight these guys, right? You know, because they're vulnerable, you know, they're out there, they're vulnerable, they're just standing there, you know, they could go out there, kill these guys super easy right now. But the Shadow, right, one of the warbounds, he's like you know, he's like talking sense into everybody. He's like, okay, you look over there, right? Okay, look over there with your little goggles. Tell me what you see. And like she's like, okay, I mean, I see, you know, people there. There's probably a few people over there in armor. And he's like, no, those are war chariots. Those, like, they will come in there. Like, as soon as we go down there to fight them, we're done. Like, we're going there and, like, you know, she's basically like trying to make herself seem vulnerable so they can go back, like, to draw them out, pretty much. And basically that's what he's telling them. So, you know, he's talking about trying to, like, you know, teach them in the art of war, pretty much, you know, basically, because like they've never been taught in the art of war. They've only been, like, you know, slaves, you know, like fighting for their lives, pretty much, you know, stuff like that. So that's where they end up leaving, you know, trying to find a place to like train and stuff like that. And like Kyra, she leaves that area and goes back to the Empire, and the Empire is on fire. Like there's like all kind of like insurrections, like all that kind of stuff. Like everyone's fighting back against everything because like they're free now. Like they're not slaves anymore. There's no more obedience. They're all just trying to get up out of there, pretty much. You know, Kyra, she's just like fighting all of them off, trying to keep them there. So she ends up like looking at like what the Red King is doing, and the Red King, like, instead of just like, you know, just like subduing these people, he's just like killing them. Like, he's just setting them like on fire, just incinerating every single one of them. And you know, she goes and she like tries to use her she goes to try to like use her old power to like knock them out of the way. And the Red King's like, okay, no, like, they're bothering me. They can't live anymore, you know, I gotta get them out of the way. And she's like shocked. She's like, okay, this dude's crazy now, you know, stuff like that. And basically this is where the governor comes back, right? So the governor, he was like out there with you know, against the Hulk and all that stuff. You know, he ends up coming back. You know, he doesn't have his armor, you know, stuff like that. And basically, like, he's talking about the Green Scar, right? You know, he's talking about the Green Scar. He's not the Green Scar. You know, he's the Sakarsan. Like, that is who that is. Like, he is the one that the prophecy was talking about this whole time. And basically, the Red King, he gets irritated and incinerates this guy, just like right off the bat, like just disintegrates him, like as soon as he says that. So he's basically like talking about how he's the protector, pretty much, you know, the one that's the actual Sakarsan, you know, the one who's actually prophesied to be the one to lead the people out of their, you know, horrible lives that they're in. And basically, this is where we get Kyra. You know, she's ready to like go and like to fight Hulk, pretty much. So the Hulk and their warbound, you know, they have their entire army. You know, they went and gathered the army and all that kind of stuff, and they basically run into Kyra, right? So she walks up to them, and basically like they try to attack her. You know, they have their archers, you know, shoot arrows and stuff like that, and she uses the old power and just like blocks all of it. So the Hulk, he walks out there by himself. You know, it's just like this empty field, just those two, pretty much, right? So they start talking, and basically this is where they let it be known that they're basically like going for blood, like they're going to try to like kill each other, pretty much, right? So Kyra, she starts talking about, like, you know, like how she ended up meeting the Red King, and basically she's saying like when she was 13, she was like training to like use the old power, because, you know, she had this like this super powerful, like, you know, like form of power, and, you know, she had to actually, you know, learn how to use it, pretty much, right? So like one day while she was doing that, the spikes, basically what the spikes are is like these little like viral little like infections that could, like, you know, latch onto people and just like turn them into like walking zombies, pretty much, you know, stuff like that. So they started attacking, and like every single one of the people in her clan got like taken over by these spikes. And then the Red King, you know, he was just a boy at the time, you know, he ended up coming through and like disintegrating all the spikes, you know, just like taking all of them out, pretty much. And basically she says that he could have done that at any time, but he just honestly chose not to, because he wanted to see who had the old power. So her entire clan was destroyed because he wanted to find out who had the old power. So instead of basically she like shows that she had an obedience to, you know, Hulk and stuff like that, pretty much, basically, you know. And this is where they start fighting at, right? So as soon as they start fighting, basically, like, you know, they're going to use their weapons. The Hulk, he like swings with his sword, and basically just like crushes his sword and her little spear, right? So this is where she goes and uses her old power and just like disintegrates the entire area. You know, she knocks Hulk back and basically like leaves this like huge crater in the ground, you know. And she expected him to be dead, but he just like gets up. He's like, nope, that's not killing me, bruh. You know, stuff like that. And basically the Red King, he's like watching all this, and like, you know, he's talking, he's like, all right, do it now. And like as soon as they go in and like try to like hit each other again, they look up and they notice something falling out of the sky, right? So when you look at this, you would assume that it's like, you know, like a nuke, or like some kind of like huge bomb. You know, they're basically just getting ready to just like, you know, incinerate the entire area and just like take everybody with it, pretty much, basically. So but instead, like when it hits the ground, they end up like looking at it, and it like opens up, right? And like as soon as it opens up, the spikes come out. So all of these like spikes, they just start like jumping on people, basically just like turning these people into zombies. So all of these guys, they have to be killed, pretty much. So now every single one of these guys have to fight these fights. But if you're new to the channel, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. And I'm gonna try to get these next couple of videos out over this next week, so I can have those out and probably start World War Hulk next week. And yeah, all right, I'll see y'all on the next one.